This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Castles of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Castles. Available on Amazon, in Kindle, and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, The True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Stories, The True and the Fictional. We've got another great interview for you coming right up, but before we bring our guest in, Ryan, are you still living the dream?
I am living the dream, my friend. It's just living the dream. It's so close to bedtime that I'm almost living the dream. But no, doing well. Yeah, just not much has happened this week. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this interview.
Good stuff. Yes, guys, we do have merch. Grab Ryan's Living the Dream shirt. It is pictured on the screen. It is a #1 seller in Ryan's household, and you should all wear it. Remember to check out our sponsors, Rebecca Castles and Martin Kearns. They are great friends, great people, and great authors. Something for everyone. Rebecca Castles has the paranormal romance and characters modelled off Henry Cavill, and Martin Kearns has, I don't think he has any characters modelled off Henry Cavill, but he has urban fantasy. Definitely worth the read. But now, let's bring in our guests. Let's get the ball rolling. Norrin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. It's good to be here, and I guess it's good to be in Australia.
Yes.
As far as that goes, I lived there for a year many years ago, and absolutely loved it. So it's nice to be there, at least on screen.
And you survived the deadly animals down here that everyone complains about?
Yeah, I did. I mean, actually, I really enjoyed that. Ended up face to face with like wombats and with cassowaries, and I actually love the echidna, although I didn't see them in the wild, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I've lived in my town. Well, I grew up here, so I spent about 20 years here, and then I moved away, and then I moved back probably 10 years ago. And for the first time in my life, probably a couple of weeks ago, I saw an echidna down the back where I live. And then I walked 10 meters from that one, and there was another one. So I saw two echidnas in the wild, which I'd never seen up here before. But it was good. I love them, but they're very, very, don't touch them.
very bashful.
Yes.
So it's amazing that you saw them. Whereabouts do you live?
I'm on the edge of the Blue Mountains, out western Sydney way. So I'm literally in a national park.
Okay, near the Three Sisters?
No, other side. So that's on the other side of the mountains. I'm on the Sydney side. Okay. So to get to the Three Sisters is probably an hour from my house. I got to drive over the other side of the mountains to get there. But yeah, so you've been to Sydney?
Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Been to Sydney, been to, actually, when I was there, we bought a used Mitsubishi Magna, 20 years old,
nice.
for 800 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
And we put 16,000 miles on it during the year. And then we sold it for 400 Australian dollars. So it was a lot of fun. We saw as much as we could of the country.
It sounds about right. That was actually my first car, was a Mitsubishi Magna.
Okay.
80, I believe it was an 85. I think it was an 85 model, and it was the worst car I ever had.
Ours was an 86 model, and it was, it did what it was supposed to do. That was all we cared about. Yeah, and it's amazing because I'm Canadian. I'm living in the States now, but I'm Canadian, and cars don't last 20 years because you've got snow and ice, and worse, you've got the salt and the sand that just destroys the car and so your body's going to corrode. Even if your engine's going to live on, your body's going to corrode. And so it amazed us that we could buy a car that was 20 years old and that was still driving and that hadn't rusted through.
Nice. Look at that, Ryan. Tangent #1, rearing all in. Let's
Sorry
stop.
about
We're
that.
going well.
We
We're
love
going
it.
very
There's
well.
no need to
That's all
apologize.
right.
We are the king of tangents. But let's wind it back to the start and ask people who is Norrin?
So I am two people, I guess. By day, I have I think like most writers, I have my day job, and then I have the thing that I really love more than anything else. But day job, I actually love my day job. I'm a university professor, so I am a professor of international relations. I study things at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm a Canadian, as I mentioned. I've lived many places around the world, including Australia. I think like 11 different cities. I currently am living right near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I teach in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So that's the day job, and I focus on things like the politics of peacemaking and the political economy of security, and something more theoretical that only people in my area care about, but neoclassical realism.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm here to talk about. But then there's when I'm off the clock and I have free time. I'm a writer. I published a novel that I'll tell you about later, The Oracle of Spring Garden Road. I have a short story collection, songbook. I can show you these over here. But I have a forthcoming novel, Bullet Holes, that I'll tell you about later as well. And I've working on my fifth novel right now. It's what I really enjoy doing. I get a high out of it, and I feel like I'm 20 years old again because I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. So those are the two people that I am, I guess.
Awesome. So that is your Superman to your Clark Kent, your Peter Parker to your Spider-Man. So I'm bringing in all the comic book references for Ryan.
Yeah. I used to collect comics when I was a teenager, so
Nice.
Enjoy the comic book references.
Awesome. Well, before we talk about all the fun stuff that you want to talk about, we want to talk about the fun stuff that we want to talk about, and that is these icebreaker questions. I can't remember, Ryan. Is it my go? Is it my go first?
I go first this time.
You go for this time. I never remember.
Yeah, that's right.
So set the scene.
That's what I'm here for. I get paid the big bucks for that.
Yes.
Okay, so we were getting a lot of politically correct answers to this question, and that's not what we're all about. We're all about selfish answers. So picture the world we live in is there's no war, no cruelty to humans, no cruelty to animals. We don't have to worry about money. Everyone, has no debt. It's almost a perfect world that we live in. Now, given that we live in this almost perfect world, what is one thing that you would get rid of?
I got to say there are a few things that I get rid of, but let's just say right off the bat, I'm going to annoy people by saying cell phones. I hate cell phones. Absolutely despise them. I can't stand having people on a bus having their most intimate conversation, talking about really intrusive medical examinations that I don't want to hear about on the bus. Really, I don't want to hear about that. And or just making love on the telephone while I'm in the seat behind and feel like I need a shower. So I don't know. I've never been. I'm not an important person. I don't make multi-million-dollar decisions. You can leave a message on my machine and I'll get back to you, and the world won't collapse. I don't deliver babies. I don't save lives. In an emergency, I'm the last person you really want to call. So I don't need cell phones. I have one because you can't do anything without them nowadays, but I hate the fact that you can't do anything without them. So I'd say cell phones are probably number one, but then if I were a little bit more serious, I'd say generative AI, which I think we could do without as well. And I kind of like people. I think people are creative. I think they're really interesting. And I think generative AI is taking away what makes us human. And so just get rid of it. Just push it off a cliff.
Excellent. Yeah,
I can definitely get behind that.
Back on the phones. Do you think we should bring back the dial-y ones where what are they called? Like
rotaries.
Yeah, the rotaries. Got to bring back the rotaries.
I love them. I have to say I love them. There's nothing like that. Yeah, there's nothing like when you're a teenage boy and you've got a phone in your hand and you're thinking of calling a girl, and you
Yeah.
pick up the phone and you dial, and as it's turning, you lose your nerve, and so you slam it down, and you've got the time. You don't have the time. I really pity teenagers now, because you pick up the phone and oh, it's too late to hang up because the phone's ringing and they already have your number displayed on.
That's it.
So I don't know. I like the rotaries.
Yeah, and then you got to worry about, are their parents going to pick up?
Oh, that's the worst. And you got to think about, oh, hi, Mr. So and so. I'm can I go now?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
no, I can get behind that. I grew up without a cell phone. I didn't get a cell phone until I was like 19 years old. So yeah, I could happily put my phone down. You know, my family's big on hiking. We've been on 3-day trips, like where we go into the forest for 3 days, and your cell phone don't work in there. So
yeah. And that's great. I mean, look, people don't think anymore.
No.
You sit on a bus, or you sit, on a train, or you walking around, and you've got your cell phone open all the time, and there's no reflectivity. And sometimes, my wife and I will laugh because we'll see a couple that's obviously on a date in a cafe, and they both have their cell phones out, and it's like we're wondering, are they actually texting each other because they don't know how to communicate otherwise? I don't know. I don't think that it's necessarily improving us.
Yeah. No. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. What is something on your bucket list?
I've traveled a lot, but I've never gotten to the Great Wall of China. I'd like to do that. Yeah. Okay. Let me say Great Wall of China.
Nice.
Awesome.
Or flying out of space, flying to the moon, but that's not going to happen. So we'll go for Great Wall of China instead.
Well, either way, both of them will be involved, because if you go to the moon, apparently you can see the Great Wall of China from space.
It's not quite the same thing, right?
No.
It's a lot harder to hike along the Great Wall of China from the moon, I'm told.
Yeah.
Draw your finger along the glass. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Jamie, I think you're going to bringing up
the magic picture.
Yep.
Ta-da!
This will be something you will be very familiar with, Norrin. So obviously this is the famous Mount Rushmore of America. I don't know where it is, but let's just say America. Okay, so given obviously, the ideal behind Mount Rushmore is, the 4 iconic presidents over time when it was created, I guess. In your opinion, what is on your Mount Rushmore of television shows? Can be from any era, any genre, anything that you think, this is in my top 4.
So again, hard to narrow it to 4, but I mean, there's some really great shows that I have in the conversation. One of them is, I don't know if you've seen The Patriot. It's relatively recent, 2-season, and it was the most incredible Black comedy. About a spy who has issues. He writes folk songs and sings things that he absolutely should not say in cafes and folk songs. And it just, in general, deadpan, politically incorrect, just crosses every barrier and every line that you possibly could cross. And it's just a wonderful show. It's really funny. One of those few shows that will make me laugh out loud, like unreservedly, or have milk spill out of my nose, or whatever it is. Great show, really fantastic show. Unfortunately, only lasted 2 seasons, and I think they ran out of ideas at the end. For the end of the 2nd season, they just it seemed to fall. The last 1 or 2 episodes seemed to fall flat, they seemed to be out of ideas. But it was just phenomenal, and when it was on top of its game for most of the 2 seasons, I don't think it could be rivaled. So I definitely put that on there. Then, I mean, I different genre entirely, but I'd say Northern Exposure. That was, I'm trying to remember when that was, probably probably like the
It was in the
1990s, I'm
90s, I
guessing.
think. Yeah.
I
But
remember it
that was
growing
really,
up.
really quirky, right? I love that. Quirky characters, quirky scenarios. Also wasn't afraid to challenge expectations, and I really liked that. It was something very different. I don't like the same formula. I don't like it in fiction. I don't like it in anything where everyone has to write the same formula and the same novel, and that's what everyone's expecting. And you've got to talk about your comparables. And I think Northern Exposure was a show that didn't have comparables, and I like that. I think The Patriot was one that didn't have comparables. I'd go for a different genre, and I'd say Wonder Years. The original Wonder Years was really nice, like a sweet, nostalgic show that was different from anything else that I had seen. Kind of broke the mold of a sitcom and made it much more of a picture of a common national heritage. I'd say, in the United States, I was, as I say, I grew up in Canada, but still, you could recognize that it was painting a portrait of a nation, and at the same time as it was telling some very personal, timeless stories that resonated with audiences of all kinds. Awkwardness of youth, the difficulty of youth, difficulty of family. So I put that in there. And then for that last spot, I mean, I probably should say The Twilight Zone, because it was also groundbreaking in that regard. But I'm afraid if I put The Twilight Zone in there, I'd be leaving shows like The Prisoner off, another show from the 60s, Patrick McGowan. I think it had like 19 episodes or something of that nature. And that was just brilliant. I mean, and I mentioned Lost also from more recent, from 2000, early 2000s. But Prisoner or Lost both had this quality of being something very, very different, where you weren't really sure what was going on, and that was the brilliance of it. That it kept you going. I think Lost disappointed, but I guess The Prisoner also disappointed in the end, because it kind of had to declare itself and say what exactly was going on, and it could never live up to the mystery that it created. So I'd probably leave The Twilight Zone off and talk about The Prisoner or Lost.
Okay,
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've had Lost a few times. I mean, I never finished it, but I liked watching it, because it was like you said, it was like, what's happening next? What's happening? What's this? And I love mystery, so
yeah, it kept you guessing. It kept you on your toes all the time.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the fun one is, what's your zombie apocalypse plan?
Well, I don't have a good one in that it's not going to keep me alive. But I realize that I'm not going to outrun the zombies. It's not what I've been prepared to do or trained to do. I've been trained to outright the zombies, but that's not going to help very much. So my plan actually is a bottle of red and a Sibelius symphony in a locked room, and I'm just going to enjoy myself until the zombies eat my brains.
Nice.
We've had that a fair few times.
What was it?
We've had a fair few people just say, let's do something that we're going to enjoy, and just let the zombies come and take us.
Well,
because no, please, Jamie.
I think we had an Ethan Nicole on a month or two ago, and he said he wants to go to the cigar shop and just hang out at the cigar shop. And he said, assuming that his family is dead.
Because you'd have to be really innovative and innovative, and very skilled to beat those zombies and survive. And so I'm not the guy for that. I just don't think so.
Well, I think we've decided that the American zombies are the Walking Dead. So, they'll be slow. You can outrun them.
Okay. Yeah, but where are you going to run to?
North to Canada, back home to Canada.
All right. Well, question number 5, which is the last one of the icebreakers. Are you familiar with the exploits of a Bill and a Ted?
I am.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Okay, excellent. So Bill and Ted arrive out the front of your house in their phone booth time machine. And they say, whoa, dude, Rufus has asked us to give you a free ride in our phone booth time machine. Where are you going?
So if it's one free ride, that's going to cause me all sorts of difficulties. But, my first instinct would be, Very anti-intellectual, but just cool. I'd love to go back to Woodstock. I mean, that would be cool. I've
Nice.
seen videos. I love the music, and I'd love to be there. I mean, seeing a video is one thing, but to be amongst all those
Yeah.
people who were orderly, but representing a different culture, representing a counterculture, a protest just by being there, and just asserting and affirming their alternate beliefs, listening to some good music, smoking some good dope. I mean, this is not a bad place to be. So I would say my first instinct would be Woodstock, but then I'd also think, well, I'd love to talk to Leonardo da Vinci. I'd love to talk to Antonio Gaudi. Just talk to a genius, see them at work, and understand their motivations and inspiration. That would be cool too. And then I guess I'd put my professional hat on and say, it'd be neat to go to the Congress of Vienna and talk to them about the peacemaking as they're doing it. But that's probably too boring. So let's go back to Woodstock.
Well, maybe you could do the Bill and Ted thing and collect all those figures and then go to Woodstock.
Oh yeah, that I'm sure Gaudi would love Woodstock, and I'm sure Da Vinci, if you gave him enough dope, he probably would enjoy it too. So
yeah,
you need to loosen up a little.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. I've always been fascinated about Woodstock, like, cultural, because it was a cultural thing as well,
Yep.
and it would have been amazing. It really would.
Yeah, I think being amongst such a huge crowd,
Yeah.
that was single-minded, really. I mean, even though variety of different people, but there was a unity there.
Yeah.
That is very rare. That was manifested,
Yeah.
and then the music was incredible. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the videos or listened to the recordings, but some of it was just absolutely brilliant, and it was different from what you'd get on a record. Like Melanie Safka did a version of "Happy Birthday to the Sun." She came out there. I mean, that was like her introduction to the world, and that "Happy Birthday to the Sun." I mean, the electricity just watching it on the video is unbelievable, and but to be there at that point must have been incredible.
Yeah. Cool.
Definitely.
Well, you've passed the icebreaker questions. Congratulations. We're very happy. The interview may proceed. On
to the speed round now, right?
No, so let's do the fun thing. Bring back comic book references and say, what is your author origin story? How did it start, and how did you get to this point where you've published a few books?
Well, I have always wanted to write fiction. I love fiction. It's my first love. And when I was 15 years old, I started writing my first novel. And I wrote a prologue and 4 chapters, which I still have buried in a box up in my attic office right now. I never write that again. I mean, it would never anything that I could write now or write seriously now, and makes me laugh. I've showed it to my daughters, one of whom is 15 years old, and we laugh at it. But at the same time, and actually I should say there's something even earlier than that, but I couldn't finish that novel, and part of it was because I didn't realize how to write, or at least how I could write. So I put it aside, and that was the end of it. And I always had an idea of coming back to it. By the way, I should say my cousin, who's a year older than me, just gave me a framed, after I published my first novel, she gave me a framed copy of my first story, which was when I was about 4 years old. We wrote this story, which is completely grammatically incorrect, and about 1,000 spelling errors and major lapses in the story. But apparently, she said, "Oh yeah, you wrote stories with me when you were 4 years old." So I have that as well. I learned how to read when I was very young. So when I was 3, so I learned how to read and write, and so there was an element of that even when I was about 4 years old. But I always intended to come back to that. And there were, during my professional careers, I've published 10 books as an academic. Now, not books that anyone will want to read if you're not an academic, but
Yeah.
but I always intended to come back to it. And then my father in 2019 was diagnosed with kidney cancer just before the pandemic closed the border between the United States and Canada. So I went up for his first two chemo and immunotherapy treatments before they closed the border. And he had always wanted to write a novel. He wanted to do different types of writing than I did. He thought that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was the greatest book that had ever been written. And he would have loved to have written that. And he liked satire. And he was at that point, he was 87, and he was told that he couldn't see people because his immune system was compromised. And if he caught a cold, that could be the end of him. And so he was told to try to stay away from people. He was very social, and he found that really hard. And he told me he was just terribly bored. And I said, well, Dad, why don't you write fiction? You always wanted to. And he said, it's too damn late. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I should have done this years ago when my mind was, was flexible and able to do that. I don't have the ideas that I had. I also can't sit and think things through in an intense manner to be able to write. I can't even sit in the position that I need to sit in for, more than 5 or 10 minutes without needing to get up and walk around and stretch. And he said, I should have done this, decades ago. And that was rattling around in my brain. In this is 2019. They closed the border, and I wasn't able to see him for close to a year until they finally allowed Canadian citizens back if you had quarantined for 2 weeks and a negative COVID test. And so but it was rattling around in my brain, and eventually I decided, you know what, he's telling me something. I shouldn't wait until I retire to write fiction. I should do this now. And I started off with, we rented a cottage for about a month in the summer of 2021. And I had an idea for a short story. So I decided to go with it. And I liked it at the end. And I got some positive feedback on it. And before I finished writing it, I had another idea, and then another idea. And that became Songbook, my short story collection, organized around thematically organized around classic rock lyrics. And so some of the songs are inspired directly by classic rock lyrics. Some of the songs associated in my brain afterwards with classic rock lyrics. And so all of the songs have an epigraph that is associated with the song in some way. In fact, I think often in classic rock lyrics. And so the songs themselves in the dialogue had classic rock lyrics. I actually had to change that around because of copyright permissions, which I didn't realize. I thought it was fair use. So I had to actually excise them and make up my own classic rock lyrics and my own bands, the Chocolate Bullfrogs and the Melancholy Grapes. But so that's why if you read that, you'll see these references to lyrics that everybody knows that no one knows. But at the same time, there's the business of art getting in the way of the beauty of art. But when I was there are 14 stories in there, and when I was about 11 stories in, I got this idea that I really liked that was too big for short stories, and I thought, I think this is the novel. And eventually that became The Oracle of Spring Garden Road. The key thing for me was what I learned writing academic works is that I don't write serially. I don't write from the beginning to the end. I have a detailed plan. I have like a several page single spaced plan for the book, which I'll deviate from as I go through. But where I failed when I was 15 is I was trying to write from the beginning to the end, and I got stuck, and that was the end of it. I never got over that. Whereas what I've learned is what works for me is to plan things and work on multiple chapters at the same time and work on whatever I have the inspiration to work on, and that'll help me get through. So that's how I've gotten on track, my origin story, if you will. And since then, I haven't looked back.
Awesome. So does that mean you're like how much of a plotter are you? Because we talk about plotters versus pantsers and stuff like that. So you do you meticulously plot things out or loosely plot things out?
So, you know, I think actually we might even have exchanged discussions of this on Twitter or X or whatever you call it. But I don't believe either plotters or pantsers. I don't believe that you can be, I think it's a dialectical process. I don't think you can simply write a novel on the seat of your pants without any kind of plan. But I also don't believe that if you're going to write a decent novel, you can actually plan it in advance, because inspiration strikes you. My characters talk to me. You know, usually when I'm trying to sleep, my characters will talk to me and tell me that I've got them all wrong, or that I'm misrepresenting them, or that what I'm doing with them is simply not credible, and they're usually right. And so the idea that I can know at the beginning, writing a novel is a many month, you know, something like, you know, 9 months, 10 months for me. And that I can know it all at the beginning, know how it's going to end. I can't do that. Some people say they write to the ending, and I can't do that either, because if I have the ending set in stone, the characters themselves develop in different ways, and the ending can't be credible if I have that planned out in advance. So I plan, and I have a detailed chapter outline. I have a plan, but I always will deviate from it, and usually that's for the better of the novel.
Yeah. No, I'm much the same. When I did Ancora, which is back there, I wanted it to be the Australian version of The Road. And then so I was writing towards the road ending, and then the characters just went, no, no, I don't want to do what you want me to do. And it's just like, and then it changed. So I almost like to say I write towards the ending until the ending changes. It always does.
So in my first novel, the Oracle of Spring Garden Road, in that one, I didn't have the ending. I actually didn't sketch out the ending in the initial plan because I wasn't sure how it would go. And it wasn't until about 40% of the way through that the ending became manifest to me. And so I wrote that. I didn't write that at the end. I wrote, once I had it clearly in mind, I wrote that. I made a couple of changes at the end. But basically the ending was in place about 40% of the way through. But I didn't know that when I started.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, since we're talking about books, I'm going to bring up your covers on the screen so we can take a look at them. Ryan can ask his cover questions, which he likes to ask all the time. But here you go. So these are your only two books that you've got?
These are the two fiction books that I have: Songbook, the short story collection, and The Oracle of Spring Garden Road, the novel. I have another novel called Bullet Holes that's coming out whenever the publisher gets it out, and hopefully within the next 6 months or so. And I haven't seen the draft of the cover art for that yet.
Okay, so with the so you just meant, you may have just answered my question there. So with the covers, do you have any input in terms of how the designs come out, or is your publisher the one that looks after all that? They say, okay, leave it with us and we'll come up with the cover design.
So for these two, I actually was even for Bullet Holes, I've given them a detailed outline of what I want, and I've sent them, you know, photographs or pictures. And so that's what both of these came from as well. So the songbook, I actually took pictures in my backyard. I have a little forested area in my backyard, and I took pictures with my saxophone and music stand against the forest, and I gave it to them, and I said, you know, this is obviously not what I want on the front. I don't want my photograph on the front cover, but if you could do something with that and, you know, make that the basis. And they showed me a few different sketches, and I really like this one. So that was the origin of that. Since it was actually, I put my saxophone in one story, or like a black saxophone, beat up old saxophone, in one story called The Magic Saxophone. And so I thought that fit. And since it was a set of stories that are united by music, I thought that was ideal. The Oracle of Spring Garden Road, this is a story set in Halifax. Well, it's set in Halifax and Toronto, actually, two cities that I've lived in. And my character in the Oracle of Spring Garden Road is a homeless individual who's extremely bright, defies all the stereotypes of homelessness, in that he's extremely bright, highly educated, and it's very clear. He likes to to talk to people and almost a lecture to people on philosophy, on politics, on anything that on art, on beauty, etc., on religion, anything that he shows his erudition in all areas, and shows himself to be incredibly well-rounded, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and has become an enigma for the population. And they're interested in, who is he, where's he from? They have a whole bunch of rumors about him. And so he panhandles from this site, actually, on screen. In front of the bank there on Spring Garden Road, there's that little alcove that you see on the cover that's being covered by that award decal. But that's his office, he calls it. And so I had given them a series of photographs of his office, and of another alternative was his bedroom. There's a park called Point Pleasant Park, which is surrounded on three sides by ocean or inlet, and he, in a ravine there, he sleeps. And so I gave photographs of his bedroom and his office, and I said either one of these could make sense to me. This was actually the first mock-up. I mean, I made a couple of changes. I asked them for a couple of changes, but basically it's the first drawing that I got on that.
Well, yeah, no, I really like the design, especially for Songbook. The fact that you took a photo of exactly what's on there, in your backyard, and they've been able to sort of give it that foresty, sort of a little bit of a mystical feel. I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it was really great work. It was really great work. Because my backyard doesn't look like that.
Yeah. Cool. So does that mean that you're a bit of a musician if you wrote a songbook?
I call myself I'm not. I didn't write that songbook. That's a songbook of actually classic rock music. But but I call myself the world's worst saxophonist because I have a musically oriented family. My wife could have been a professional pianist. She took classical piano for, I think, the first 20 years of her life, or no, probably not for the first 5 years, but maybe 15 of the first 20 years of her life, and was very good, and went to the final exam at the highest level, and then ended up doing something else entirely. Actually, she's French, ended up moving to Canada, which is where I met her, and ended up getting her degrees in Canada and the United States, and moved into artificial intelligence, completely different area. But so she's very musical, and my two daughters are very musical as well. The cool thing is that they both like the same music that I do, so we can actually go to concerts together and listen. But they're very musical and play multiple instruments. So they're violinists initially, but they both play piano and guitar, and one of them plays the drums. And so I'm in a very musical family, and I've always loved music and listened to music, and always wanted to be a musician. My parents initially gave me piano lessons when I was young, and that wasn't the right instrument for me, and it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And times were tough economically for them as well, and so eventually they saw I'm not interested, and they cut me off after, I think, 2 years, because they didn't want to spend the money on it. And it was the right decision, but it was the wrong instrument. So at one point I was in a music store with my daughters, like about, I don't know, just a few years ago, probably I'd say about 7 or 8 years ago. And they were all buying music or sheet music or getting their equipment tuned or whatever it was. And I saw this very cheap saxophone on the wall that was screaming at me. And that was this black saxophone with the brass keys. And it was $200, which is very cheap for a saxophone. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to teach myself how to use it. And so I bought that. And I have the world's worst teacher, and that I have myself. YouTube is wonderful. I've gotten books, and so I am the world's worst saxophonist. I'm not very talented. Maybe if I had, many years under my belt, but at least I love it. So that's what matters.
That's it. Make a joyful noise. Doesn't have to be good.
I'm loud. I'm very loud.
I'm passionate. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, me and Ryan used to play in punk rock bands, so we know all about being sort of terrible.
I'm sure you're a better terrible than I am. I'm just, not very gifted, but my enthusiasm makes up for it.
Well, the good thing about playing punk rock shows in underground, basement venues, it's so loud, no one can hear if you're off key.
and most people are drunk when we play anyway. So we used to play, a lot of people intoxicated, so it all sounds good. And
so try playing a trio with with a gifted pianist, a gifted either guitarist or violinist, and a tenor saxophone that's just blowing his guts out. I drown out everyone else. And I'm not very good.
Yeah, that's all right. My band used to have a trombone player, so that was an interesting combo. But yeah, all right.
You don't hear trombones often in a band,
no, we were a bit of a ska band. So if you know ska, it's like punk rock reggae.
Okay.
Really. It's like if reggae was fast, and all the brass instruments playing along. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun.
And if people like me didn't like their trombone player, we used to tell him he had a really nice trumpet, and he used to get really upset. And even though we knew it was a trombone. Me and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I used to tell her, "Hey, go and tell Steve, tell him he's got a really good trumpet." And we used to tell him, "Go, it's a trombone, it's a trombone."
It was funny because he was drunk people would come up at the end of the gig all the time and call it the wrong instrument, and he would get so offended. Poor Stephen.
It used to be the going joke with our bands, and then it got to the stage where pretty much all the shows that we played, Jamie's band played as well. So he used to just cop it from all of us every single weekend.
And this only just came to I feel so bad because we were playing a late night show, and someone started Steve's mum, saying Steve's mum a lot. And then the whole pub was like, Steve's mum, Steve's mum, Steve's mum. And then we went to his wedding, and the guy at the front was like, "Oh, if you've got any messages for the bride and groom, send us a message, and you could write it down." So this guy gets his piece of paper and he opens it up in front of everyone and goes, "Steve's mum." And it became this massive joke, and I feel so bad about it. I think I started it.
Funny.
It was very funny.
I'm sure years of therapy have probably helped him get over it, or not.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that was probably 10 years ago. I think our band split up. But and he's happily married now. He's a happy camper, I think. I haven't talked to him in a long time. But this isn't the Stephen podcast.
As much as he would love it to be. Yeah, exactly. If you are listening, Steve, just make sure you tune your trumpet up to nice and good.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you tell us about what you're working on now? You mentioned bullet holes, was it?
So the next book that's coming out that should be in the next 6 months, I hope, from Next Chapter Publications is Bullet Holes, and that's It's timely exploration of the current moment in the United States, and so I'm a bit of an observer here because I'm Canadian and I am not a U.S. citizen. I'm in the United States working, and it's an interesting moment where it's very difficult to have political conversations at all with people that you disagree with, and it's tearing families apart. Also, you have particular phenomena, and the particular phenomena that I'm addressing in this book is school shootings, which is something that's largely foreign to my country. I think largely foreign to Australia as well, but in the United States, it happens an awful lot. And people are heavily divided on how to deal with school shootings, depending on where they are on the political spectrum. So I have a family that's set in the neighborhood that I currently live in suburban Philadelphia. And they're a family that for over 2 decades has been a family that got along despite political disagreements. And so they're from opposite sides of the political spectrum, and that's never been a problem until something happens, and that something happens, to the family that divides them and makes politics matter. And you get to the point where they get together for a major family event milestone, and the sparks start flying because suddenly the political divide starts to matter. And I write this from the perspective of the different characters. So what's interesting here is that I can do this because when I teach political science international relations, I present material to my students as if I were the people I'm teaching. So I tell them I wear hats, and I try to be as faithful as possible to the different perspectives, whether I agree or disagree with the perspective. I tell them that my goal is not to indoctrinate them. My goal is to try to help them understand people's perspectives as if they were standing there and not me. And so that's what I do in this book. I mean, when I write, I try and get inside the character's head, which is never my head. And so here what I do is each chapter is written from the perspective of a different character that has a very different worldview. And the story advances in that regard. The action advances, through different prisms and different perspectives. And it was really interesting because I'm not sure I share anybody's perspective fully as I go through, but that's really not the point. The point is the difficulty of this particular moment in the United States. So that's Bullet Holes, and that's coming out in, as I say, I'm hoping about 6 months, within the next 6 months, maybe sooner. And then since then, I've written 2 additional novels, one of them about a toxic relationship. And like on one hand, an intense and beautiful relationship, which is also toxic, has its dark side, and so that was a fun book to write. Although I get a little dark. I don't mind getting dark, and I find the dark side is often more interesting than the light side, and so I'm interested in characters that are not run-of-the-mill characters. I mean, I think in many respects, people who make my life choices or who do what I do are pretty boring, or pretty straightforward people who are not that interesting to tell a story about. On the other hand, I'm interested in people who make unusual choices or who have unusual outlooks on life, and often that involves getting to the dark side. And so that novel is very much about good people, decent people in a beautiful relationship that have a dark side that makes everything complicated. And I have another novel that I'm querying right now, which is a spy novel, completely different from everything else that I've done, in that it's more of a spy novel in the tradition of John le Carré or Graham Greene. And so that was a lot of fun to write. You know, I guess it's the thing that is closest to my day job in that, you know, the character is a you know, defense official in the Pentagon, and you know, I do a lot of interviewing of people in the national security and intelligence sector for my day job, and so there's that novel as well that I'm querying right now, and I'm in the middle of a fifth novel right now. So I've already sketched out a sixth novel. I've sketched, you know, about, you know, 5 single-space pages of a plan for the sixth novel, but I have to get through the fifth one before I can get there.
Excellent. So you're very multi-genre, it sounds like. So do you just take the stories as they come and go, I'm going to write this kind of story and tackle it?
That's right. That's, yeah, if I get an idea, I love reading many different
Yeah.
styles of literature and types. And you know, I'm if it's well written, well crafted, interesting characters, compelling characters,
Yeah.
quirky characters, I like reading it. And if I have an idea and if it excites me and if I can see myself, I mean, it's got to be something that I'm willing to invest, you know, 9 months to a year writing, and not lose interest, and have, you know, and be okay with the characters inhabiting my head. If that's the case, if I get excited about something, I'll go with it. I don't plan what I'm going to write. People often, you probably know this yourself. People will tell you, "Oh, you're a writer. You should write this story," and that doesn't work. But the spy novel, I never intended to write a spy novel, but I was actually on vacation in Japan. My wife had a conference in Japan, and I tagged along, and was on vacation in Japan in a subway, and this scene hit me, and you know, I started thinking, well, how do I build this on this scene? And it just it just on the space of a subway ride, of a I don't know, about an hour and 15-minute subway ride from Tokyo to Yokohama, where we were staying. The idea for this novel came into place, and I was pretty excited about it. And I decided, okay, let's go for it. So I have a spy novel that's you know, partially set in Japan, which I never would have imagined.
Yeah, and you probably never would have thought about it if you didn't go to Japan. You know, it's just I love it when ideas just come to you. I mean, I was watching John Wick 4 the other day, and I had an idea for my current work, and they go to Japan, and there are all these Japanese people there, and so it's if I didn't go to Japan on the television, I probably wouldn't have come up with the idea for my latest book. Um, so you just find that just ideas come to you in the most
Yeah.
inconvenient, like you ever teaching, and then suddenly you go, that student would make a good character.
No, so I'm very careful with characters in that I don't write about anybody that I know,
Yeah,
and I you know, not only for family reasons, I don't want to write
yeah,
about anything. I'm kind of protective of
yeah,
my family, but in general, I don't want to write about anyone that I know. The
yeah.
funny thing is that I write you know, characters that fall into my head, and then when people read my book, they'll say, did you write this based on me? Like, were
Me.
you? And it's like, no, I don't know. And then they'll tell me things that are extremely personal, and I think, wow, I didn't know that. Maybe I didn't want to know that, but somehow or other, people ask me if I've my character in the Oracle of Spring Garden Road. 3 people now have said, did you base that on me? And I'm like, well, how? but but no, I don't write about
No.
anyone that I know, and try to avoid that. On the other hand, you know, when I'm walking around and dealing with people that I don't know, I'll often, you know, watch people, and I hope I don't make people feel uncomfortable, but I'll often
Yeah,
watch people, watch the way they stand, watch the way they interact, and I'll just get some ideas. Or I'll
yeah,
see a character, you know, its appearance, someone's appearance, and I'll think, and that'll spark me thinking about
yeah,
a particular type of character and setting and story.
yeah. Well, that used to be a big thing. I don't know, like probably maybe 20 years ago, people watching, where people just go to the park and just sit on a stool and just watch people go about their day. And, it wasn't creepy back then, unless you're like pulling faces and stuff. But, you can just, make
No,
up stories.
absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes I'm self-conscious about this, because I'm, you know, watching people, and I think, oh, I hope they don't think I'm some kind of weird creep who's,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm just, you know, I'm just a writer who's looking and watching, seeing what you're wearing, seeing how you're standing, seeing, the interaction, the hand movements and the like.
Yeah, I'm just seeing where you live. I'm just seeing what time you go to work and what time you come. No, no.
Noticing that your window is unlocked.
Yeah, noticing where you put your backup key or your spare key under the stone. Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. Well, what do you say we play a game? Are you up for a game?
I'm up for a game.
All right, because you are the first one to play the updated version of Story Pitch.
I'm honored.
So it may be harder this time because people said it wasn't hard enough. So depending on the numbers you give us, it may be hard. The game is called Story Pitch, where basically you are going to give us a number between 1 and 12 for these categories for setting, for genre, for a main character's profession, and an optional edition, but everyone does optional edition, so I think I should change it to mandatory edition or something.
Yeah.
But throwing a spanner in the works. So basically, you give us the numbers, we give you the what that number correlates to on our special graph that you can't see, and then you have to pitch us a story that could be your next novel.
So for setting, you see, it's tough because normally for me, my stories often start with a setting, and usually a setting that I'm very familiar with. And like setting's very, very important to me. But
All right.
let me go for number 9.
9, okay. And genre?
7.
7. Main character?
2.
2. And what's your addition?
I'll go for 12.
12. Okay. Looking at graph 1 there, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your setting is a carnival.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What was the number for genre?
7.
7. Your genre is fantasy.
Okay.
Your main character is a detective.
Okay.
And the optional edition, which is something that must appear in this story, is dinosaurs.
Okay. Well, that was obvious, right? I mean, what carnival doesn't have a dinosaur?
Yeah, so it's a carnival with dinosaurs. The main character is a detective, and it's got to be fantasy.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're here because I really wanted to pitch a story to you that that I've written. It's a great novel, really. It's actually not a novel; it's a trilogy.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, definitely, it's definitely a trilogy here. But listen, the main character, Dirksen, is a detective. He's a Canadian detective, I should say. And what he does is he's been actually on the trail of something mysterious. There's this light that's been shining. Carnivals usually take place at night, the night carnivals when everything goes on. And what happens is there's this mysterious light that's been shining really bright, like brighter than the sun, at a series of carnivals in the Midwest of the United States. And people are wondering what's going on. And so someone contracted Dirksen since he has experience with this. And anyway, he investigates. There's a love interest, Darrison, who has, for some reason, a similar name to Dirksen. And that really piqued his interest, too. But so he falls in love with Dara because Dara, he turns out, is his soulmate, and first time he sees her, the chemistry is so great. But as he's following the trail of this light, he finds out that Dara turns into a dinosaur, which may explain all the D's in her name. And she flies through a mysterious window. And every time she flies through the mysterious window into another dimension, a dimension of fluffy rainbows and dinosaurs and glowing diamonds, a bright light shines. And what they realize is they're star-crossed lovers because he has an allergy to dinosaurs. And every time he actually meets a dinosaur, his skin breaks out into this really red rash, and he gets really itchy and starts sneezing. And so he realizes in the end that he can't cross through that dimension with her, and eventually they break up, and he ends up becoming an alcoholic and writes his memoirs.
Fantastic. It was leaning on the romantasy a lot, but that is an offshoot of fantasy, so we'll allow it. Brilliant. I look forward to reading that. All right. Round 2. You can give us the same numbers because it's different things that are there, or you can give us new numbers. It's completely up to you.
Let's go with the same numbers then.
Okay.
I mean, you've already given me like 3 bestsellers here.
Yeah. All right. So your setting. Oh, I like this. It's a 1990s arcade.
Oh, okay. I spent a lot of time in those arcades in the 1990s. Okay, good.
Okay, your genre is historical fiction.
Well, it's the 90s.
Yeah.
So fiction.
Okay.
Your main character he's a bounty hunter.
Bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And the optional addition, which is something that must appear in the story, is sumo wrestlers.
Of course. Well, 1990s arcade, historical fiction. Okay. Well, it's a little known fact. By the way, this story is historical fiction. But it's actually based on reality. So it's based on a true story, but it is fiction. But because everybody knows that in the 1990s, when Bill Clinton was president of the United States, he frequented this arcade because he had a particular fondness for RBI baseball, which was a game that he liked back then, which allowed him to play some classic teams. From Arkansas, he didn't have a team of his own, so he particularly liked the 1971 San Francisco Giants, and he used to sneak in there, because there were people who suspected him of inappropriate behavior with someone's daughter, shall we say. There was sent a bounty hunter out to get him. They couldn't get him on in the White House because, of course, he was president of the United States. The Secret Service was there, but he used to sneak out away from the Secret Service in order to go to this arcade, which was called the Big Hair Arcade for reasons that I'm not really clear on. Anyway, so this bounty hunter, I forgot to tell you, his name was Bob the Bounty Hunter. He didn't actually have a last name, or he did, but he figured that it was cooler to just be Bob, sort of like Sting. At the time didn't have a last name that he had. And so Bob the Bounty Hunter would go into this arcade trying to find him and trying to get him on his own. The problem is that there was this sumo wrestler that used to go to the arcade as well. And at one point, just at the pivotal point of the novel where Bob the Bounty Hunter is about to slap the cuffs on President Bill Clinton, turns out that the sumo wrestler spotted him and started wrestling with him and wrestled him to the ground. And I won't give away how it ends because I think, we got to leave some suspense there. But that's this pitch that I was thinking. It's a one-off, really.
Okay. Awesome. Excellent.
This idea came to me while I was on a podcast once.
That's great. This turned out well. I'm realizing how creative these authors are that we get on, Ryan. Because I think about these things and I go, geez, what am I going to come up with if someone said that? But everyone's just been brilliant so far. I think to date, Molly McCabe's been the quickest.
Yeah.
But there you go.
But no, they've always been quite good.
Fantastic. Well,
yeah, it's a cool game. It
is. I mean, we had someone on that wanted me to have a spinning wheel behind me. I'm going like, geez, can't afford that. You could just spin the wheel and
that would be cool, actually.
It would be cool. Maybe buy some shirts, guys, and I'll make a spinning wheel for the game. Um, well, thank you so much for joining us, Norrin. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Great to meet you both well on screen, and great to talk to you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do the thing we do on all podcasts, and that's give you the floor to plug what you want to plug. Tell us where we can follow you, stay up to date with what you're doing, and how can our listeners and viewers support you?
Thank you for that. I met you on social media on Twitter or X at N_Ripsman. You can follow me on Blue Sky at nmripsman.bluesky.social. I'm on LinkedIn as well. In addition to that, you can find all about my fiction on my website, which is norrinmripsman.com/fiction books. You'll find a lot about my nonfiction books there too, but that's going to be less of interest if you're not an international relations geek. And so the fiction books link on that is going to be, it's going to tell you everything about what I'm doing, what's forthcoming. You can purchase my books on Amazon. You can purchase it on barnesandnoble.com. If you're in Canada, you can get it on indigo.ca. In general, you can find that on, you can request it on pretty much any online purchasing platform. In general, as I recommend for all independent authors, you review the books. If you like it, review it, blog about it, post about it. It's the best way to support an independent author. If you like something, reach out to me. I'm always happy to hear from people as well.
Awesome. Well, all Norrin's links will be down in the show notes, guys. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Rebecca Castles, Martin Kearns, and my stuff too, if you want. Apparently I don't plug enough. Buy Ryan's shirt. Support his baby cats. and every shirt sold goes to the Ryan Haig Foundation.
Yes.
and the running of this podcast. So thank you again, guys, for listening. Thank you, Norrin, for joining us. And until next time, keep supporting those indie authors, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
See you next time.
Thank you very much. Take care, buddy.